1033 on Talk Radio 950. It's Hearsay with Chris and Brian. 713-212-5772. I'm starting to wake up a little bit. I didn't get home till this morning.
Yeah, a while ago.
I was emceeing a charity event last night, and a fundraising event. I don't want to say charity's not right. It was a fundraising event.
Now, what fundraising event lasts till 2:30?
None of them. It was the after
post party.
It was the after fundraising event that lasted till 2:30.
You were at there was a bar somewhere raising funds. Yours.
Yes, exactly.
Did you get tacos on the way home?
I did not. I did not. We stopped by an establishment that I've come to know very well, Cahill's, and then we stopped by another establishment that features eggs and things like that in the middle of the night.
There's plenty of them.
Let's take some calls. 713-212-5772. Hey, Bill, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How you guys doing?
Great.
Well, I was just one of you all said a little while ago that you thought it was unconstitutional for somebody to present a picture ID when they voted.
I think it's unconstitutional. That was Chris who said that. What I'm saying, hang on, Bill. What I was saying was, I think it's unconstitutional to force someone to have a picture ID when they already have a valid voter's registration card. It's the same thing as the poll taxes and taking the test that we used to have in the 60s. All of that was struck down. This bill is just a means to suppress minority voting by the Republicans, and that's all it is.
That's foolish.
Let's say, okay, you've got a valid voter's registration with no picture on it. So how do they know it's your valid voter's registration?
Name one case that you know of that's occurred. One. Name one.
All I can tell you is that people, dead people vote. People who are not registered to vote. When I go in to vote, I don't have my voter registration with me.
And another one, 330 illegal aliens were registered to vote. 44 of them voted in Bear Box County.
But unfortunately, Bill, they can get a driver's license too. Apparently.
That is just a means to suppress minority voting by the Republicans because they're concerned about losing.
It's just a means of keeping the Democrats out of office because most of the voters for them are not registered.
So we agree. That it's just a means by the Republicans to ensure their majority.
We're trying to cut down on fraud. How dare we cut down on fraud?
There is no, you can't cite a bad problem of fraud. You can't cite it. No.
The only other thing is it doesn't suppress them because the poor and the elderly, all these people present IDs with pictures to cash their welfare checks and their grocery food stamps, all that, so they already have.
What they ought to do, Bill, is have a law that says you don't have to present any ID to buy a gun because it suppresses people from buying guns. And see if they like that.
Now you're being silly. Bill, thanks a lot. Appreciate your call. 713-212-5772.
You can't buy. There's so many things you can't do without showing picture ID these days. It seems to me that it's fundamental if you're going to go vote that you ought to, at a minimum, prove that you are the human being that is registered to vote.
Just a means to suppress minority voting, and you know it.
Let me ask you this: why would a minority object to showing a picture ID?
It's just a means to suppress.
Why minorities? Tell me why a minority opposed to someone
else. I don't know why, but that's what it's designed to do. I didn't make it up.
It's designed to do that.
That is exactly what it is.
That's like saying that people in Palm Beach County, the Democrats voted wrong in that election because
they don't have a driver's license. What if I don't have a driver's license?
Then you can get a ID card.
So I have to go down. What if I don't want an ID card?
Then don't vote.
I have the right to vote, Brian.
You do if you register. What if you're not registered to vote? Do you have a right to vote?
No.
Then all they're asking you to do is to prove you are who you are.
It's just a means to ensure the Republican majority.
You're saying that Republicans are more likely to have a driver's license than Democrats? What kind of a stereotype are you portraying?
For crying out loud. See, now you're just being
silly.
You're
in a box.
This is from Larry. I think Brian is being a little tough on the dog bite law recently passed. It was listed in the Chronicle the day after this was voted on. There were so many exceptions that it was almost watered down to nothing.
They did. Right there at the end of the session, they came out with a lot of additional language in there. This thing is
I don't care. It's a bad law.
It's very, very lengthy. But I think
thanks, Larry.
Elevating a dog bite to felony level is a mistake.
It's a bad law. 713-212-5772. Hey, Greg, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. I got a comment or question, however you want to look at it, about that child molesting deal you were talking about.
All right.
if I understood you correct, you were saying a lot of these adult repeat offenders should just basically get a life sentence or whatever.
Well, what we were suggesting,
not rehabilitatable.
Well, let us back up a little bit, because what we were talking about was two different things. First, it's been commonly known for years that pedophilia is not a treatable. It's a recognized mental illness that is untreatable.
Okay.
Now, take that aside.
Now, this bill isn't just for pedophilia.
Right,
this
and
is
I
for
found the
victims
bill.
under 14 years of age.
Yeah, 14 years of age, younger than 14. And what Brian said about and Brian was the one that said that. What he said was, if you are a repeat offender of sex acts against children, Brian would favor a life without parole law for that.
Well,
that's what we were talking about.
Okay, then what if that's probably next to murder, in my opinion, the most heinous crime that anybody could do.
Agreed.
You take a child's life, you totally ruin him for life.
Agreed.
Why should he just, after doing something like that, why should he just get life without parole?
Well, because
taxpaying people like me and many others out there have to pay to support him for the rest of his life.
Well, but I don't think we decide whether we're going to put someone to death or not put them to death based on economics. Secondly, now with the rapidity of death executions in this state, it may be changing, but statistically over time, historically, it has cost more to execute a human being in this country than it does to support them for life in the system.
And
So it's not a benefit to you as a taxpayer.
What was that, Greg?
Financially, to have them executed.
What'd you just say, Greg?
I was just saying I can't understand. If you take a 20-some-year-old that's going to live to who knows how long, and it costs more in 1 year to support him than a lot of people make in a year.
You just have to understand that when you look at all of them, not all of them are 20 years old.
Right.
Some are 50 or 60 years old. But when you look at them, across the board, it has been extremely expensive from a taxpayer standpoint to convict someone, to do a capital murder case, put them through the system, and then execute them through the appeal process.
And here's the problem with this bill, because I found it and pulled it up. To get the death penalty, it says here, and it's a very long bill, so I can't read the whole thing, but during a period of 30 or more days in duration, I'm sorry, let me try that again. I just messed that whole thing up. During a period that is 30 or more days in duration, a person commits an offense, below, against one or more victims. Yet the actor, the defendant, has to be 17 years of age or older and commit an offense against a child younger than 14. Now, here's the problem I have with this bill. You can get the death penalty if it's aggravated kidnapping with the intent to violate or abuse the victim sexually, but you didn't actually do it. Indecency with a child, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, burglary, if they can prove that you did it with the intent to commit the sexual assault, whether you actually did it or not. Those things make it so broad that I believe the Supreme Court's going to strike it down.
Well, I guess I can kind of agree with the intent thing, and not actually doing it. But when you take a repeat offender that actually just destroys the kid.
Look, you know what, Greg, and I got to run. I got to take a break. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I disagree with your logic with respect to the death penalty, and it's the argument that we have had for 40 years minimum here in the United States about the death penalty. When is it appropriate? When is it not? My prediction is that the Supreme Court will eventually strike this down. Greg, thanks for the call. 1042 on Talk Radio 950. This is Hearsay. $10:45 on Hearsay with Chris and Brian. 713-212-5772. All right, let's see. Let's get right back. Well, no, I wanted to do an email here. Stay right there if you're on hold, and we're going to get all of your calls.
And just so you know, back on that death penalty bill, that is not if you have a conviction once for it, and then you do it again, and you're convicted again, you do it. If you just do 2 acts within 30 days, then that's going to be enough, even if it's just indecency with a child?
Yeah. Yeah, and so you got the situation where somebody's irritated with their partner and goes and says this is what happened, and it was a sexual assault because I didn't consent to that, and lies about it, and which happens a lot. It happens. I've defended people on those very allegations, and they're subject to getting the death penalty for that. That's a bad law. That's a bad law.
Yeah, I don't care where you fall on the death penalty. And like I said, I just hope the debate doesn't focus on if someone is against this, that they're for or soft on crimes against children.
Right.
This is just looks like it's going to be a big, gigantic drain on the taxpayers again to prove that this thing truly is not a bill that's going to sustain constitutional scrutiny.
I don't know if we did this last week or not. This is from Lane. I'm trying to get myself released from some credit card debt. I have a couple of creditors that I'm dealing with. However, one creditor that I'm trying to settle an account with is telling me that if they settle the account, they will be sending me a 1099 at the end of the year to claim on my taxes. I have a real problem with this, considering the fact that their interest rate is the reason the balance is high, not because I charged outrageous sums of money onto the credit card. I've been with this creditor for 10 years. And I've always paid on time. Just recently, I decided that paying on this account was not getting me anywhere due to the interest.
Which I can understand that, especially on credit card debt.
I've asked them over the years to lower the interest rate. They've always told me the interest rate was non-negotiable. Can you please tell me, is it legal for a creditor to send you a 1099? Yes, Lane, it is absolutely. If they write that debt off, then it is perfectly lawful. And actually, they should send you a 1099 because when they write off your debt, you just got a financial gain.
And I don't know of any exception to that a component of the debt is interest versus something you actually incurred. I think debt is debt, and when they forgive that debt, now once they forgive it, they can't come trying to collect it again.
Right.
You know, because what they're saying to the IRS at that point is that we deem this uncollectible. We're going to cease collection efforts, and then when they do that, guess what? From an IRS standpoint, that becomes income.
And look at it this way, Lane, and think about this. Now, them writing this off is going to hurt your credit, but let's say you owe them $10,000, and they send you a 1099 for $10,000. You don't have to pay those people $10,000 now. You have to pay the government the taxes on $10,000, and you are done with that debt.
But they are far less forgiving at the IRS on collection. They have more remedies than a credit card company is going to have. So keep that in mind too. If you think you're going to not pay that part of it.
No, but I'm going to suggest that you find a way to pay this off. And the one way you do that is go to your bank or another creditor and borrow the money from them at a better rate, pay that off. That way you don't destroy your credit along the way.
I know one thing. It's a shame that a credit card company like this wouldn't negotiate off of the interest rate because it sounds like he's trying to be responsible and pay his bills. And when you put someone into a position where they're paying $500 a month toward a credit card and they're reducing $10 worth of principal on it, I mean, you can't expect them to keep paying. Now, you're an adult, you got into it, you did it, you're a big boy, you knew what contracts you were signing, and I'm not forgiving people who have bad debt like that, but it sure puts people in an awful box when they don't understand revolving credit and the way it works. It's an awful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do we have time to take another call? All right, let's see. 713-212-5772. Anthony, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Oh, not much.
I had an incident probably like about 2 months ago with one of the small police departments within Harris County. It's still in Houston. And an officer actually gave me a ticket for speeding, yet I wasn't speeding. And he didn't actually clock it on the radar gun. And when I went to court on it, I don't know, not too long ago, they were it was some issues over what was it, the whole case. The judge is still going to be actually looking at the tape, to see my point of view that I wasn't speeding. So I guess one of my questions was that at that makeshift courthouse, should there have been a court reporter there documenting different things? Because when the courts went, when the case case went on, it was a couple of things that the police officer said that wasn't true.
So you've had your trial on this, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think that they have to record that because it's municipal court's not a court of record, right?
It depends. If it's the city of Houston, it is. The other ones in this city are not.
Yeah.
So, were you in the city of Houston?
Yeah, this is, you want me to give the department?
It doesn't matter to me.
Yes, it's the Memorial Village.
Okay, that is not a court of record then. Then you can get a trial de novo to the county court.
Which what that means is that if you appeal this, someone's not going to be looking at what happened in the earlier trial to see whether it was right or wrong. You just get a brand new trial if you want to take it up.
Okay.
So I don't think that it was inappropriate not to have a stenographer.
Right. But if it doesn't come down in my favor, because I've had 2 lieutenants review the tape saying that they didn't.
Well, look, here's the deal. If it go to trial, if you lose, you file an appeal. It's called a trial de novo. You go to the county court, which is a court of record, and you have a judge there who is a judge and not some private lawyer. But I know the judge over there in Memorial Village. He's not a bad guy, but The thing is, you get 2 bites at it this way.
Have a ticket pending.
Okay? Yeah. No, I don't. You get 2 bites at it this way. So go to trial. If you lose, just appeal it. It goes to the county court and you can do it again, okay?
Okay.
All right, Ann. Thank you.
I don't know how a judge is going to look at a tape and figure that out.
I don't either. 1052 on Talk Radio 950. This is Hearsay. $10:55 on Talk Radio 950. It's Hearsay with Chris and Brian. 713-212-5772. Well, we got a full board of calls. Let's get right back to it. Who is next? And who moved this over where I can't? You got to have arms 9 miles long here today. Jerry, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Yes, gentlemen. Good morning. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a general question about Medicaid eligibility. My understanding of Medicaid, which is a pretty big strain on the taxpayer, is that for United States citizens who are below a certain income level, and they can prove that, low income, then they're eligible for Medicaid, correct?
Generally speaking, that's
correct.
true. Yeah, Medicaid is not an entitlement like Medicare, so you do have to qualify, and it is subject to having to be reimbursed, and it is subject to them making you exhaust your assets before you start accepting benefits.
But if you can document and it's a bona fide, you have low income, you can get Medicaid. I think I understand it. My question is about resident aliens and illegal aliens, okay? Now, this whole amnesty bill, I think it's an amnesty bill that Bush is trying to push forward, where all these people all of a sudden are be legitimate. Are they already on? Because,
but the 12 million people, or Brian says it's up to 20 million, but the government always uses 12 million, so we'll just stick with that. The 12 million people that are already here are already getting health care. And so I don't know, to say that this is going to be a new burden, I don't think is fair. We're already.
What kind of health care are they getting? That's what I'm not understanding.
You know what? Well, they can go to any county hospital, and because they're illegal, they're not going to be turned away. You're certainly not going to be turned away at an emergency room. And what's unfortunate is I've heard very disturbing stories where a citizen can go in and they don't qualify because of their low, even though it's a low income, their low income level. But if a person who made regardless of what they make, walk in and they're an undocumented alien, they can get health care. And it's a tragedy what we're doing here with our social services, and that's what's caused the attraction to be here.
And I think that's part of why I've been saying all along, if we're going to fix this problem, fix the whole problem right now. We've been griping about illegal immigration for all through George the First, all through Bill Clinton's term, all through this president's term. We've griped about it. Finally, somebody sat down and wrote a bill. And you know what? There's a lot of problems with this bill. There's enough, like I said yesterday, there's enough in this bill for everyone to hate, so it must be a perfect compromise. But let's do something.
Well, they tried to do something in 1986, which was going to end all this. They were going to end immigration. This was going to stop. They were going to secure the borders. They gave amnesty then, and we end up with 12 million more people here that we're dealing with. We're going to do this bill. We're not going to secure the border, and we're going to end up with the same perpetual problem. And until they do something about the border, they should ignore all these other solutions until they do that.
But I agree with you. But the part I'm focused. Hello?
Go ahead.
The part I'm focused on is, I see that many of them having a lot of children. I know they're not making enough income to support all these children? Are they getting Medicaid?
Well, even the ones over here that are going to be now having jobs and have some legal status and paying some taxes. There was a person, an economist, testified before Congress that every one of those, on average, will be a $17,000 per year drain on our treasury per person. Do the math on that.
Hang on, let him finish.
Okay,
go ahead.
My point is, okay, if someone is a resident alien and they're here legally, let's say from England or wherever, okay,
hurry up.
And they have low income. Are they eligible for Medicaid?
They'd be the same as anybody else. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be here for a certain amount of time, though?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, right. Jerry, thanks a lot. 10:59 on Talk Radio 950. We're going to check in right now with Fox News. This is Hearsay. Good morning and welcome to Hearsay. I'm Chris Tritico.
And this is Brian Clary.
713-212-5772. If you missed that first hour lively discussion that we had, go to 950kprc.com, and on that page, go to the podcasting, and you can download it, listen to it, save it.
Ignore it.
All of our shows for the last couple of months are right there, and we've received some emails from people thanking us for putting that on the podcast, and you're welcome. We didn't do it, but you're welcome.
Yeah, we'll take credit for it.
Yeah, that's right. And people email me say, I missed the show, but I got to go listen to it on the podcast, and here's my question, and so it's really been nice that we're on there.
Yeah, if you want to give thanks, send it to the station manager so they'll know that we even exist over here.
713-212-5772. All right, let's get back into the calls. Dallin's been holding through the break to yell at me. Hey, Dallin, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Buenos dias.
How are you?
¿Cómo está?
I'm great. During the first hour of Hearsay with Chris and Brian, I heard Mr. Christopher L. Tritico, and the L stands for liberal.
I thought it was going to be something else, but go ahead.
I heard Chris say that requiring a picture ID in order to vote breaches the Constitution. It was unconstitutional, you said. Would you please explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, because the right to vote is one that is secured to all of the people. And it's the same thing that we did in the 60s and the 50s in suppressing African Americans from being able to vote by requiring poll taxes that was eventually ruled unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court, by requiring them to be able to take a test. Can you read? If you can't read, you can't vote. If you can't write, you can't vote. All of those laws that the states passed to prevent African Americans from voting were eventually declared and ruled unconstitutional. This, in my view, is just another attempt by, in this instance, the Republican Party to suppress minority voting, and I think it will eventually be declared unconstitutional.
Chris, the right to vote is not reserved for all the people. If a 15-year-old child shows up to vote...
Oh, now we're not going to argue about... Absolutely, you have to be of age, and the Constitution says 18. I didn't suggest by any form or fashion that a juvenile could show up and vote.
Well, a juvenile could show up and vote if the... Excuse me, I've got a cough. If the state... Pardon me.
Wow.
If the state permitted... a 15-year-old to show up, they could do that.
No, you need to read the Constitution that says 18-year-olds is the
Well, he's not talking about them doing that legally. He's talking about that unregistered people vote all the time. And showing a picture ID, I think, is a very minimal intrusion into the sanctity of the privacy of the human being to walk in there and do this fundamental act of a democracy, which is to cast a vote.
Yeah, well, a picture, you could have you require a picture. That the states could have all kinds of qualifications.
Well,
like
those qualifications have been wholesale turned down by the Supreme Court, and we'll see what happens with.
Some of them
actually, this is not going to get through this session.
You have to register. Was that not an intrusion?
It doesn't look like this is going to get through this session.
Why can't we just all show up down there and vote without registering, Chris? Because maybe minorities don't want to register either.
That's just silliness, Brian, and you know it. You're just taking you're doing exactly what your party wants you to do and taking to the absurd so that you deflect the true meaning of this.
There was probably a Tritico around, a Christopher Tritico, L Tritico around when they made you have to register, and he probably said the same thing, that this is an intrusion and it's unconstitutional.
There's only 2 Christopher L Triticos, and only one of us is of voting age. 713-212-5772. We got some emails to do.
Well, maybe he can still vote anyway.
Not yet. Not yet. I'm still...
Because he didn't have a driver's license.
Trey, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
My question's simple. I did some stupid things back in my youth about 25 years ago, and I was curious about the issue of expunction.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Expunction of criminal records.
Okay. Yeah. What were you charged with?
Well, the main thing, I guess, was aggravated robbery.
All right, and how was that case resolved?
TDC time and parole.
Okay, that cannot be expunged under Texas law.
Really, not at all.
Not at all. There's only 4 ways to get it expunged. Actually, there's only 3. The Code of Criminal Procedure gives 4, but there's only 3. You can go to trial and win, get found not guilty. You have to be no billed by a grand jury. Your case has to be dismissed by a prosecutor for no probable cause. And the 4th one that is enumerated but doesn't really count is the governor can give you a pardon.
Right.
And so that doesn't, that's just really doesn't happen. But so you have those 3 ways. That's the only 3 ways you can expunge a record. What you have is a final conviction, and that cannot ever be erased.
Right. Huh. Okay. Well, that answered my question. It seems like I'd heard of, people having records expunged.
What you have heard, I think, Trey, is a fairly new law on deferred adjudications. You cannot expunge a deferred adjudication probation. But now there's a law that after 5 years after you successfully complete a felony deferred, you can seal that record. It's not expunged, but it's sealed from public view and from most public, most people in the public.
And they were trying to prevent the stigma and the problems that you probably have experienced or will experience going forward. They're trying to avoid that for someone who made an indiscretion, paid the price for it, and is trying to get on with their life and has kept their nose clean since. But even that has turned out to have a lot of holes in it. So it has not turned out to be a panacea for even those who have successfully completed their 5 years.
I wish there was some way to help you. The only thing you can do is raise, $250,000, $350,000 and give that to Governor Perry, and you might get a.
That was kind of the gist of what I'd heard is if you contributed enough money to the right politician that you could get.
And quite frankly, in some states that might work. In Texas, I think that's even harder to do because the governor of Texas cannot grant a pardon unless the Board of Pardons and Paroles approves it first. So you have to grease the Board of Pardons and Paroles, then grease the governor.
And I don't think Chris is suggesting that those elected officials and those on the Pardons and Parole Board are.
I don't know anybody on the Board of Pardons and Paroles, but I'm not putting anything past Governor Perry.
Yeah, well, I've already tried the pardon route, so
that's a tough road, Trey.
Now, how can you say that about Governor Perry? Hadn't he stopped this border problem? He campaigned on that.
Thanks, Trey.
All right, y'all have a good day.
All right.
He even bought a nice leather jacket to walk up and down that border. Said that if reelected, he was going to stop all this.
I'm tough on this border security. And then 2 weeks after the election, came out and said, we need this amnesty program.
He hadn't been down there either mentally or physically since then.
Okay, now the next caller is Walter. I don't know if it's our Walter or it's our
normal Walter.
We don't know if it's a normal Walter or our Walter. Let's just see what happens. Hey, Walter, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Well, it sure.
Well, that answers that question.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
But people do pay attention to you. They know you're there. One of the judges got on me, Brent Berg, in the 312th. The associate judge jumped on me for attacking all the family courts. And I went by to see him. He was listening to your program. And I challenged him to come on your program and defend the family courts.
And he was afraid he won't do it because he's afraid you'll call in.
No, I think he's going to do it, but his court may be clean. That's Judge Squire's court, and I do like that one.
Any of the any judge is welcome on this show at any time as long as they are not currently running for re-election.
Oh, well, he's not running, but he can't talk about specific cases, but he can come down there and defend the other 8 courts in his own
We have welcomed any judge that wants to come on this show. We welcome them as long as they're not running for re-election.
Okay, well, very very good because he doesn't run for election.
And
He's
believe
an
me,
associate judge.
That's true.
We can find plenty of things to talk about with any judge in this state.
And so what do you want, Walter?
Well, I wanted to say, didn't you mean Dewhurst instead of Craddock?
I did. Yes, thank you. I thought about that after I said it. I said Craddock. He's the Speaker of the House. I meant Dewhurst.
Well, Chris has had to be corrected about 10 times already in this program, and when you get corrected by Walter,
I got the other 9.
I didn't get home till 2:30 in the morning, so.
Well, that's not an excuse.
The culpable mental state on the dog, it may be unconstitutional, but your culpable mental state is intentionally keeping a dog. The attendant circumstance, the dog gets out and severely hurts.
Well, we did clarify they do have to prove criminal negligence, so it's not just it's not strict liability like it had been originally worded. They do have to prove a criminal. At least a standard of conduct.
The bill says, Walter, the felony is with criminal negligence fails to secure the dog and the dog makes an unprovoked attack on another person that occurs at a location other than the owner's property.
And what's unprovoked? You get into these definitions is weird. All I know is that I would hate to be the person sitting in the penitentiary and my Chihuahua had scratched a mailman.
Oh, quit!
I'm in.
Extreme.
I'm in for murder. He's in for bank robbery. What are you in for?
My Chihuahua bit somebody.
My dog bit somebody.
Hey, but maybe you'll get in that Paris Hilton cell.
Yeah,
well, maybe so. Well,
I don't know. I wouldn't want to. Why would you want to have to be locked up 24/7 with Paris Hilton? All she do is gripe.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to be locked up with any woman anymore. Anytime. You know, they talk too much.
That's why they call it the bonds of matrimony.
Yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
All right, Walter. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
We haven't heard from him in a while. It's 11:18 on Talk Radio 950. This is Hearsay. Talk Radio 950. It's Hearsay with Chris and Brian. 713-212-5772. Let's do this email.
Why would we have a song about cocaine on a show about the law?
I don't know. I didn't think about that. This is from Gary. I promised Gary we'd do this today, and we've got another one. We got 2 more we have to do, too. We're emailed up today. Chris, your opinion, please. Brian, you can leave. My son applied for and received a Visa card.
You're right. He didn't say he wanted a correct opinion. So
a Visa card before beginning a job as a musician on the road. He incurred living expenses, which he paid on the card, and he was let go from the band after 2 months. He made payments, but without employment, he is now behind. He can pay $157 to stay current, $705 to get the balance back below his credit limit, or $1,095 to be free and clear. My contention with the credit card company is that he should have never been allowed to charge over his credit limit. Is it possible to settle this without having an effect on his credit? What other options are available? Who should he talk to? Well, first, the fact that they allowed him to charge over his credit limit does not relieve him of the obligation to pay the money back.
I doubt it says anywhere in their contract with him, and he has one where it says that if you don't have to pay anything, that we let you charge over your limit. Secondly, if he's in delinquency already, then his credit has probably already been affected or could be affected.
But I think that
he's in default.
If he has the $1,095, pay it off, get out of it. That way you're not building interest, you're not building any more late fees. Pay it off and get out of it. And if you can loan him the money, then he can pay you back at a much more favorable interest rate that won't kill him.
Yeah, the main thing is not to get into a repayment structure where at the end of it in 5 years he will have paid $10,000 toward it. That's the thing to be avoided on that. So,
right, okay. So there you go. But pay it off. That's the best thing to do. Pay it off and get out of it. And then he's learned a valuable lesson in how to deal with credit.
We've talked about this before on the show. That to me it is sickening that the credit card companies, how they market to youth on college campuses. They're indoctrinating all the time. They're handing these things out to people who have shown no financial responsibility. Right. And
it's a tough lesson to learn. It's a hard lesson to learn.
Yep.
John, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Yes. Hey. What do you think about this? I'm sitting here under a oak tree out in Colorado County, small town, and in their newspaper they listed by name 16 individuals who were indicted by the grand jury.
Right.
And then another 26 individuals who were sentenced. And I'll give you an example. Joe A. Gonzalez, theft, sentenced to 30 days in jail.
Okay.
Ricky Cunningham, driving while license invalid with previous conviction.
Okay, we believe you.
What's the point?
Well, the point is, this would be this is a real shame here for these folks.
Well,
they got their name in the paper for being convicted of a crime.
Well, it's a public record. When you get convicted of a crime, it's not secret. It's a public record.
And there's not a lot of news in Colorado County.
Yeah, and you'll find in virtually every small town in Texas that has a newspaper like that, they go and do that exact same thing every time the grand jury meets, and once a week they do the crime report.
Now, what would be more questionable is if they just showed arrests. And go on the police blotter and put down every time someone's arrested. Even then, I don't think the paper there's any recourse with the paper. I mean,
no,
Fat Chancellor, a good colleague of mine represented a fellow who was picked up because he had a pill in his pocket when he got stopped for a traffic offense, which was a narcotic, but it was prescribed. And the paper reported that he had been arrested and also arrested with a controlled substance, which sounds awful for the paper to do that. But, at the end of the day, it's difficult to prevail on a slander case against a newspaper, especially with the protections that they've got of the First Amendment.
And when what they're reporting is true. And that was true.
They argued that.
He was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. That's exactly true. John, the thing is that none of that is secret. It's public record, and they have the right to print it. You don't see that in Houston because we have 35 or 38 criminal courts.
It'd be like attaching the phone book to the newspaper.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, one last thing, Chris. If you go on KPRC's website, and you want a prize, in order to collect that prize at KPRC, you have to show a photo ID.
That's because we're not going to give our hard-earned prizes away, our cheesy crap away, if we don't know if you're the person who won it.
But we'll let someone vote without proving that same thing.
But this is not the government. Thanks, John.
You're saying the prize is more
This is not KPRC. KPRC is not the government. It's just that simple.
I just wonder why people are so vociferous about someone being able to vote without proving who they are.
Vociferous. Wow, that's a good word. I've never heard you use that word before. It's not often. It's not often on our show word vociferous gets used. Here's another. Let's do this email before we have to take the news break. Hey, guys, I hope you can help a woman in distress. A friend and I had a PLLC last year, and we ended up dissolving it in December of 2006. We renewed our Yellow Pages ad in August or so of last year, but we figured out by September that we would no longer continue with the business. We contacted our Yellow Page rep, who lied and said it was too late to cancel the renewal. It turned out that was a lie. We didn't find out till much later. Now a collection agency is hounding us for payment. The corporation, again, has been dissolved. Do we owe this money? I heard that somewhere a PLLC is not, individual members are not responsible. And this is from Linda. Linda, I'm going to guess that either you or your partner, or both, individually signed for that Yellow Page ad, not just in the name of the PLLC.
And let me give everybody out there one big lesson about being a corporation. If you're signing a document, now most of the time if you're getting funding or a loan and you're not General Motors, you're probably going to have to separately guarantee it and sign for it separate, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But if you've got an obligation that you're engaging in and they're not requiring that and it's only in the corporation's name, that's what the contract says. When you sign that, in addition to it referencing the corporation only and not you individually, when you sign it, you've got to put the name of the corporation down there, and your title of who you are, or you may have been deemed to have signed it individually anyway.
And I'm going to guess,
binding you individually.
And because this was a new company, it sounds like, because it was a new company, then I'm going to guess the Yellow Pages would not sell you that just on the corporate guarantee that you guarantee.
But if you're right, and this contract with the Yellow Pages says you're a corporation, and you signed it appropriately, disclosing the corporation and your name and your title within it, which gave you the authority to sign it, then you may have a good argument that that's a debt that they must collect against that defunct corporation, assuming the charter was in good stead at the time you did it.
Now let's assume that let's assume that you owe the debt. If you have something that you can use to prove that you canceled that before the renewal period ended, in other words, you had timely canceled it, then you've got a good defense to paying that money back.
But if that contract says it needed to be in writing and that person misled you, you're going to have a hard time prevailing on that.
Yeah, so good luck on that. I hope it works out, Linda. Thanks for your email. 713-212-5772. It's Hearsay with Chris and Brian. We're going to check in right now with Fox News. If you want to send us an email, go to 950kprc.com. .11:33 on Talk Radio 950. It's Hearsay with Chris and Brian. 713-212-5772. That's 713-212-5772. Don't forget you can send us an instant message. Go to 950kprc.com. And while you're there, check out the podcast of Hearsay and register for a prize. But remember, you have to show your driver's license when you come pick it up. 713-212-5772. You have to take a test. If you can't read and write.
And send the poll tax to us individually, please.
JW, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Hey, how are you guys?
Great.
I had a question in regard to an ex-convict in Texas getting a CHL.
All right.
Is there any, or even possessing or owning a firearm? What's the
a person who is an ex-con, a person who is has a prior felony conviction under Texas law can have a shotgun in their home after, I believe it's after 5 years after you are released finally from the burdens of your conviction. In other words, 5 years after you have served your complete sentence, or 5 years after you're released from parole. In other words, after it's completely done, you can have a shotgun in your house. Now, there was some legislation pending with respect to handguns, not a CHL, but there was some, and I can't remember what it was, but there was some legislation pending with respect to handguns. I don't think it made it through this session.
If you had a pardon from the governor, could you get a CHL?
Absolutely, because the effect of the pardon is to release you and restore your civil rights. And as a matter of fact, like we said, if you are one of the very few that get a pardon, you can then have that record expunged because it never happened.
I got you. Okay. After the pardon, you have to get it expunged?
No, you can get it expunged. The pardon erases the conviction, and therefore you are not a convicted felon, and all of your civil rights are immediately restored.
But if you want that record not to be public for people, a potential employer, for example, to see, then you have to take the additional step.
Right.
And what's that? How do you do that?
You file a petition. You file a petition for expungement in the state district court, in Harris County Civil District Court. If you live in Harris County, you need to hire a lawyer to help you with it because it's a technical pleading. It's a civil case and a technical pleading.
I see.
It may be opposed. I don't know how they would oppose it. There's a pardon.
They can't oppose. They can oppose it, but they can't. They won't. Not on a pardon.
But if it's in a situation without a pardon, where it's like probable cause was the issue, they can be opposed.
They can oppose them.
It's not a ministerial thing where you're filing and it's going to be automatically granted.
And I've actually had some opposed.
I don't know if this makes a difference. It was a possession of marijuana charge 35 years ago, and it was a first-degree felony then.
Right, but what was the result of the case?
6 years in TDC and about 2.5 years on parole.
Okay, and it has been pardoned or has not?
It has been pardoned, yes.
Okay, then you need to file a petition to expunge it.
Okay.
And
hire a criminal defense lawyer to help you with that.
And how did it get pardoned? I'm just curious. If you can say, if you can't, that's fine. But I'm just curious.
Well, after getting out, this was about 5 years after I was off parole, and I did very well, and went through the FBI and had an FBI background check, and did everything and submitted all my paperwork, and I got the pardon. And
I'm going to guess that one of the things that helped you was the fact that the law had changed and reduced it that possession from a felony to a misdemeanor. Yeah. Hey, JW, hire a lawyer and they can help you get that expunged.
Great.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hey, one of the few guys got a pardon.
After
I said it's not going to happen. Thanks, JW.
Did you get the impression that was a long time ago or recent?
Yes, a long time ago. If he was convicted when it was a first-degree felony, that was in the 70s.
But he said it was 5 years after.
5 years after he was released, he got a 6-year sentence, so it was probably still in the 70s or early 80s when that happened.
Wow.
So 713-212-5772.
In a couple of years, he and Scooter Libby are going to have something in common.
A pardon. Nathan, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Morning. I got a vehicle that's been in the repair shop since March of last year for an engine repair.
Good heavens.
Sounds like they're having a tough time with it.
Well, the gentleman keeps telling me that he's, tried. He says that he's tried 3 different engines in it, and all the engines that he's been getting aren't running properly, or they're the wrong type for that vehicle.
Are you paying for this, or is this some insurance repair?
I'm paying for it.
How much you paid this guy?
So far, I've only paid him, what he said he wanted for the parts, which was around $800.
Okay, well, let me just give you a practical suggestion. I go pick my car up and take it somewhere else, and then worry about getting my $800 back. I mean,
and now that's assuming he's not claiming you now owe him more money.
Yeah.
If he's going to say, no, you can't pick it up because you owe me, $1,000 more, then you're going to have a problem because he has a right to claim a lien on that.
Yeah, but and Brian's right. I mean, he has a M&M lien on it, and you don't even have to file those. He's got it with the workman's lien, if you will. But if he hasn't completed the job and he can't complete the job, I think he's going to have a tough time maintaining that you owe him money. So,
yeah.
I gave him my car a year and 3 months ago. I don't have it back. It still doesn't run.
Unless he's going to say, look, this guy wanted to do it on the cheap. I was going to use rebuild engines. I told him that it's very expensive because they don't always run, and he was willing to take that risk. And now I'm out all this money and he owes me. But he better have a contract for that.
Yeah. So my advice to you is go get the car and take it to another repair shop, get it fixed, ask them what the deal was, if this guy could have done the job. And I'm guessing that you can get an engine in a year and 3 months, you can find an engine that'll fit in that car and work.
Yeah, and the problem is one of his friends was watching over the shop while he was at a doctor's appointment, and I looked at the engine.
Mm-hmm.
The exact same engine that car went in there with.
Yeah, just go get it. Go get it. Get a tow truck driver, drive over there, give me my keys, give me my car, and then go to small claims court and sue him.
I think a year shows plenty of patience, Nathan.
Yeah. I think you've done all you have to do. Go get your car and take it somewhere else.
All
right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Nathan ought to change his name to Job.
I wouldn't have waited that long. All right. Let's. What we got time for one more? All right. Who's next here? Oops, not that one. All right, now I just messed the whole thing up.
All right, let's go to a break.
Hit the wrong button. All right, here we go. Sandy, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I went through a divorce in 2004 that was settled in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And during the course of the divorce, I paid my lawyer the retainer and was paying her fees. And, of course, we settled the divorce. I paid the final bill, or what I thought was the final bill. I think there was a small balance of about $500 that popped up afterwards. But long story short, 2 years later, I'm getting an attorney calling me about collecting on a $3,000 outstanding bill with not my attorney but her firm. And so I'm calling my attorney because I'm very confused. She is a part of the firm, but apparently I have now discovered that she had separated her billing from her firm, and I'm seeing bills I'd never seen before, and I've got this attorney that says pay up or he's going to file a judgment on me, so I feel like my hands are tied.
No, wait a minute, wait. You hired a family law lawyer to help you who was a member of a firm.
That is correct.
Without telling you, this lawyer billed you individually to the exclusion of her firm?
That is correct.
The first thing I would ask the person who's asking for that debt for the firm is A, show me a contract that I have with the firm, and B, show me the time slips or the justification for the bills, not just a total, but I want to know what time it is. If they're claiming the same time that this lawyer incurred in saying that you should not have paid that lawyer, you should have paid us, then that's one issue. If they're saying, fine, you paid that lawyer her part of it, but the firm also had paralegals and other lawyers that worked on it, and they need to be paid, that's a different issue. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to collect.
And additionally, let's assume that what happened, what you understand to have happened. In other words, the lawyer, it sounds to me, and I don't know who this lawyer is, and I don't want you to say this person's name, but it sounds to me like what you're suggesting is this lawyer stole the money from the firm. Or just took the money to the exclusion of the firm, and the firm's now saying, you didn't pay us, you paid her.
That's exactly what they're telling me.
Well, my response to the firm would be, that's your problem.
And I guarantee you, I think that the lawyer that unless you're in on it. Now, if you know it's under the table, that's different. Right. But when you go in there and you deal with a lawyer and they're with a firm and they tell you how you're supposed to do it, that lawyer has apparent authority to do that. Yeah, and so I don't think you've done anything wrong. And if that person absconded with that money, if that's what happened, that's the firm's problem. Yeah. They ought to be sending her a letter saying you need to pay this back.
That's what I thought.
Now, here's what you can do. You can go to the state, the Houston Bar Association and the State Bar of Texas have a fee dispute committee. What you need to do is get this before the state bar. Right. The law firm, I don't think is going to be terribly interested in seeing this fact scenario that you've laid out here unfold in a hearing with the state bar.
Yeah. Call the Houston Bar Association tomorrow morning and ask them how you get in touch with the Fee Dispute Resolution Committee.
Fee Dispute Resolution, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, do that tomorrow and let us know what happens.
Yeah, Sandy, do get back with us on that because that's an interesting scenario.
It is.
I will definitely do that, and I thank you for your time and your guidance, and I'll get back with you.
Good luck to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
11:43 on Talk Radio 950. This is Hearsay. Let's get right back to the call. 713-212-5772, 713-212-5772. Samuel, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing, sir?
Great.
I was calling because I purchased a truck. Well, I'm trying to purchase a truck from Planet Dodge for Humble. And then they were going to give me a trade-in for my car for $5,000, and I was going to do a check for $3,000. When I took the money and I signed the paperwork, I didn't see the trade-in, how to put it on the paperwork.
Uh-huh.
It was never $5,000 deductive on the thing. So they say it was already in the deal because my
Wait, back up. You lost me.
Well, what he's saying is that they're saying that the price that's in the contract takes into account the trade-in, and what he's saying is that that should have been deducted from the price.
Okay, all right.
And then they never deducted. And I didn't see nothing on the paperwork with the.
Did you sign it?
Yeah. And I went back to in 2 hours. I called him the guy, and I was working. I told him I was going to bring the truck back. I was claiming what happened to the $5,000. He said, well, it's because we have a high interest. We have to lower the interest, and we have to pay some money for the fees and stuff. So, I never
well, that's too bad. You didn't negotiate that, but the problem is you signed it.
Yeah, you signed a contract with a bad price on it, and now I don't know if there's a right of rescission in those contracts where if it's within a day or so you can undo it. But at the end of the day, they have you're going to have a hard time beating what the document you signed unless there was a mutual mistake. It doesn't sound like they believe there was a mistake.
Well, and I went back and I told them, "Where's my car? Where's my keys and my title?" And they give me right away because that guy, I think the salesman wanted to take the car home or something because he didn't put it it was not in the paperwork. And I told the supervisor, he said he didn't know it was a trade-in. Only $3,000 down.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's an interesting twist.
I got my car back. The only thing they're trying to tell me they're going to sue me from the $3,000 because I took the money out from the bank.
They gave you your original car back and rescinded the deal?
Uh-huh.
They rescinded the contract?
Well, they said they want to go to my credit and the $3,000 for doing a bad check. I think they're going to fire the guy because he gave me the keys and the title back right away when I walk in there. Well, because it was not even in the contract.
This is the craziest deal. Here's the problem. I don't know that they rescinded the contract. I mean, they gave you your car back.
If they rescinded the contract, you didn't owe that down payment anyway.
Right. It doesn't sound to me like they're not saying they rescinded the contract. If the salesman,
but you've given them the vehicle back and you have your trade-in back, right?
Yeah, I got my trade-in back. Yeah.
It sounds like everybody's back to square one.
Except they claim they're going to sue him.
For what?
I don't know.
Why would they sue over the down payment when they've got his truck and he's got his car back?
Samuel, what you're going to have to do is wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think everything's back. It sounds like it's back to status quo, and these people making some threat like that, I don't think that they'll do it. But
they got real mad with that guy. He was.
Well, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take it. Good luck on it.
Let's try to take one more before we have to take a break. Tom, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
How are y'all?
Great.
I just had y'all spoke earlier about being able to seal a criminal history.
Right.
What are I guess, what do I need to do to try to do that? Or
Did you have a deferred adjudication?
I got probation.
Not a deferred?
I don't think it was deferred. No,
okay, if you had a straight probation, you cannot seal it. You can only seal a successfully completed deferred adjudication.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure.
All right, here's what you need to do is go see the lawyer who helped you. Or
I just had a court-appointed lawyer.
All right, then go see any criminal defense attorney who can run your record on what we call JIMS, the Justice Information Management System.
Okay.
They can run it on JIMS and tell you if you had a deferred or if you had a straight probation. If you had a deferred and you meet the other requirements, then you can seal it. If you had a straight probation, you cannot.
What are they normally talking about? $1,000 to do that?
It's up to the lawyer. I don't know.
Up to the lawyer. Okay.
Yeah.
And is that sealed? I'm trying to get a job with the fire department. Is that going to be sealed from
there's been some changes to the law. When it was first passed, it was sealed from public view except for law enforcement personnel and school districts. I don't know if they have made any additional exemptions that would allow other governmental entities to see it. And so before you spend money on this, find out if it's going to fit your needs, and that the lawyer you go see can do some research and tell you.
Okay.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
All right. 11:51 on Talk Radio 950. This is Hearsay. Let's get right back into the calls before we run out of time here. CJ, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Good morning. What a great show, guys.
Thank you.
Informative. A couple of real quick comments for you concerning undocumented workers.
Okay.
We've seen an alarming number of false identifications, particularly Texas driver's license, that have came into the state. They're really of high quality. In fact, unless you're really attuned to the inner secrecies of these things, you're not going to spot them at all.
Which is why I think in the last few years the Department of Public Safety has gone about modifying those driver's licenses, isn't it?
Well, it is. In fact, in truth, you're right. But the stuff we're seeing now replicates what we're using today.
So it was much more sophisticated than the ones I doctored up when I was 17, 18 years old.
When you went to the flea market over there, all 59.
We went over to one of those things where you put $1 in, it takes 4 pictures and pasted my picture onto it and had it laminated. You talk about it's a little bit more sophisticated than that.
Just a tad, just a step above that.
Yeah. That's why they're talking about in this new immigration bill having a tamper-proof card that's supposed to be that you can't replicate.
I don't believe that.
But I don't believe it either. Anybody that can now make a $100 bill that you can't tell from a real one to a fake one can make an ID.
I don't think you can make anything tamper-proof. Anyway, CJ, go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You've got a pretty high benchmark when you say you're going to do that.
Right.
Even the new biometric required identity on features on their passports.
Right.
The second thing is undocumented workers who get paid. Almost every convenience store on every corner cashes checks, and most of these folks have operating agreements with the company that they'll make these things good. They may not know the payee, and most often do not.
Right.
Another good one is I worked a fraud case where they had compromised the internal purchasing system of the company to the tune of about $25,000. And when I identified the offenders in this case, both were undocumented, one of which was using the Social Security number of a deceased person, and it even successfully filed a workers' comp claim on it.
Right. Well, I mean, nobody is suggesting that that there's not those people who are here undocumented that aren't committing crime. I mean, nobody's suggesting that. What we were talking about earlier was, how are you going to fix the problem? And sitting around griping and not doing anything, which is what the legislature's done for the last 12 years, isn't getting anything done.
Instead of doing nothing about it, let's get a giant federal bureaucracy and staff it full of a bunch of bureaucrats that are going to sit there and try to assess.
So you'd rather sit around and do nothing.
I've already told you what
my
plan was. Very simple. Let's
seal the border. Build these huge fences. Fence.
Seal the border. That's
the dumbest thing I ever heard of.
Seal the border. Change the Constitution that having a child here doesn't automatically give citizenship, and cut out the social services.
I'm so tired of hearing seal the border. You can't seal the border.
Then why did your legislature just say? You say they're going to do something? They've authorized 700 miles of fence.
No, it wasn't.
So you're saying it was
300 miles.
It was 700 last year. They dropped it down to 300. They've only built 2 miles. But you say that. But what you're saying is it won't work, and we shouldn't seal the border. So what you're saying is they're doing something, and they're wasting the taxpayers' money.
I did not say we shouldn't
Just a real good liberal position that it sounds like you're trying to fix a problem by throwing money at it, and you're all for it.
You can't.
It's not going to solve anything.
You can't seal a 1,500-mile border.
Then why are they trying, Chris? Why are they wasting taxpayers' money if you think it's a failure? You like doing something as long as it's a waste, right?
Oh, God. You don't listen. That's your problem. You don't listen. Nina, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to put up with this every day.
For listening to you.
Judy, you're on Talk Radio 950. Good morning.
Yes, sir. I would like to see what kind of what next step I'm supposed to do. I had I had a roofer out fixing on my patio, and he told me that I know I had hail damage to my main house, my roof on my main house. So he said I need to call my insurance company. So my insurance guy came out, and he said that's not hail damage, that is defective shingles. Call your yeah. Here I go.
Okay.
So anyway, I called. I wrote a letter to Elk up in like Michigan or someplace wherever.
That's the roofing manufacturer,
right? That roofing manufacturer, and told them the story. So they
sent somebody down and said, no, that's hail damage.
Now they tell me that's not an Elk product. So I call my roofer who put it on 20 years ago, and he said, well, he doesn't have proof, but he says. He gave me the guarantee at the time and said, no, ma'am, that's an Elk roof because that's why I gave you the guarantee.
Wait, your roof is 20 years old?
Right. Now, I had a 25-year guarantee on it.
All right.
So, I ought to have some kind of money coming.
Something. Yeah, not much, but something.
Right. So I ought to have, it's a big house. So the roofer told me it'll be about a $5,000-$6,000 roof to put it on now.
Right.
This comparable thing. So, but anyway, Elk comes back and tells me that's not an Elk shingle. That your roofer, put on an inferior thing. I said, well, he didn't. He's still in business, and he wouldn't shaft people 20 years ago and still be in business. I said,
you don't know about that. You don't know about that.
Well, we're from a small town, so I believe it. We're in Santa Fe.
Chris has been in business for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't you going through what about your homeowners coverage? I know that they rejected this at first, but I think you've got good grounds to say that this ought to be their problem because of hail damage and not Elk's problem, even if it was their shingles, because I doubt that they would warrant this if it's destroyed by weather.
Is Elk
when
saying?
You have a guarantee on it, that's what it says.
No, I don't think the guarantee is for if your house burned down, we'll pay you on this. I mean, I think that if it's a weather or disaster related failure, that's more of an insurance problem than it is a guarantee from the manufacturer.
Oh, you think it's more my insurance problem?
I think it is. Now, what they would pay on a 20-year-old roof, I'm not positive about that. It depends on what the policy says.
It won't be much.
Well, I don't know. You can't help. If it caused the roof to fail and it was due to hail, even though they're saying it's not, I think you got a case against them. At least enough to talk to a lawyer about it.
And you're probably going to need to get an independent person to come out and evaluate that roof and tell you if it's hail damage or not.
Keep the shingles.
Don't trust.
You mean like an independent roofer?
Yeah, don't trust Elk, but don't trust your insurance.
You got to get the roof
fixed.
You got to get the roof fixed if it's leaking, and keep some of the shingles, and then try to get a lawyer to look at it from an insurance standpoint.
Good luck, Judy.
Take care.
All right. Bye. Well, you just heard 2 hours of Hearsay. It's only right here on Talk Radio 950. Stay tuned for Dr. Joe Galati. What's left of it? Have a great weekend.